Hello and welcome to Kashmatics. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to calculate the area of a triangle using the formula a half AB sine C. I'm also going to flip the questions around so you know how to answer them just in case they're presented to you slightly differently. So grab yourself a pen and some paper and let's get started. Now before we start with any examples, we need to know how to label the triangle properly. So the vertices, or the corners where the angles are labelled with capital letters, and the opposite sides are labelled with the corresponding lowercase letter. Now the formula for the area of a triangle is half AB sine C. Okay, and what you need to know is two of the sides and the angle in between them. But I actually like to write the formula this way, like I've got over here at the bottom. Okay, the area equals AB sine C divided by 2. It's exactly the same as the top in terms of the actual function, but it's a lot easier to rearrange when it comes to answering questions where the information is given to you slightly differently. So I'm going to be using this bottom formula to answer the questions. So here's our first example. As you can see, we've got two sides, so 9 centimeters and 10 centimeters, and the angle that's sandwiched in between them. So let's look at our formula. So the formula is A equals AB sine C divided by 2. And all you do is you do A times B, so 9 times 10, multiplied by sine 37, and divide that by 2. Okay, and you just plug that into your calculator, making sure your calculator is in degrees mode. And if you do that, you get 27.1 centimeters squared. Okay, nice and easy, really straightforward. There's not really much else to it. Okay, so I'm going to put up some examples for you to try, and then you can check to see if you've actually got the method, and then we'll move on to some slightly trickier questions. Now when I said examples, I meant I've got some questions for you to try. So here's 3 questions for you. What I want you to do is work these out, giving your answer correct to one decimal place, making sure to round them off properly. One of them might catch you out. Anyway, pause the video and give it a go, and I'll reveal the answers shortly. So the answers are coming up in 3, 2, 1, and there you go. Okay, so those are the answers. Bearing in mind, when you do round this first one off, okay, you need to still include the 0 because that first digit becomes a 0 when you round it off. Yeah, and that's it. So those are the easy questions. Now let's move on to some slightly trickier questions. In this example here, I'm going to be working out a missing side given the area, an angle, and a side. Okay, so this is the area, it's 35 centimeters squared. We're told this side here is 11 centimeters, and we're told this is 30 degrees, and we want to know what this missing side needs to be to get to this area. Now the first thing I do is write down the formula. So area is equal to AB sine C divided by 2. Now I write this formula down every single time I use it, and I encourage you to do it as well, because the more you write it down, the more likely you are to actually remember it. So the first thing we're going to do, once we've got this written down, is substitute what we know into this formula. So we know the area is 35, so 35 for the area equals AB. Okay, so that's the two sides multiplied together, so that's 11 times P, which I'm going to write as 11P. Sine C, it's a sine of this angle, so sine 30 degrees divided by 2. And now I need to do a bit of rearranging. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this 2. So I'm going to do that by multiplying the other side by 2. And that gives me 70 is equal to 11p sine 30. Okay, and you've got to understand this right hand side. It means 11 times p times sine 30. So to get rid of the 11 and the sine 30, I just divide the left hand side by it. So I do 70 divided by 11 times sine 30, and that's going to give me p. And if I was to plug this into the calculator, I'd get p is equal to 12.7 centimeters. Okay, so if you need to pause the video and absorb that, please do so. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and try to answer these 2 questions. Right, so definitely pause the video when you're answering these 2 questions, and then I'll reveal the answers. So the answers are coming up in 3, 2, 1, and there you go. Okay, so just check through your working and check through the answers, and if you got them right, let's move on. Now in this example here, we're going to be calculating an angle given the area and 2 of the sides. So as you can see, we're told the area is 70 centimeters squared. we're given one of the sides which is 15 centimeters and the other one which is 16 centimeters, and we need to work out what this angle needs to be to get to this area. So just like before, I'm going to write down the formula. So A is equal to AB sine C divided by 2. So let's just write down what we know. We know the area is 70. So 70 is equal to AB, so that's 15 times 16, multiplied by sine C. So in this case, it's going to be sine X, and all of that gets divided by 2. Now, in order to rearrange this, I need to multiply the other side by this 2, just like I did before. So I get 140 is equal to, now I'm just going to do 15 times 16, which is 240 sine X. Now at this stage here, I divide by 240 because I want to leave the sine X on its own. So do 140 divided by 240, which is sine X, which means X equals, so to work out X, if you know what sine X is, to work out X I need to do the inverse function. It'll be the inverse sine of 140 divided by 240. Okay, so now you can either enter that as a fraction, or you can just write 140 divided by 240 on your calculator. And if you do that, get the inverse sine of that, you get 35.7 degrees. Okay, so just like before, if you want to pause the video to absorb that, please do so. Otherwise, you can move on to these questions on the right, and I'll reveal the answers in a little while. Actually, before you do it, it might be an idea for me to actually label these angles. So let's just say the angles are called T. Okay, so now you can pause the video and you can try the questions. So I'm going to reveal the answer in 3, 2, 1, and there you go. Okay, so just check through your working in the answers to see if you got those right. And if you have, well done, and let's move on. Let's have a look at this example here. We're given a triangle where we're given two of the sides and we're given the area, and we need to work out the angle in between them. And we're told calculate T given that it's an obtuse angle. And at first glance, it looks just like the questions we've been doing, but let's just work through it and see what happens. So the area is equal to AB sine C divided by 2. Let's substitute what we know. We know the area is 107. AB are your two sides multiplied together, so 18 multiplied by 12 times by sine T, all divided by 2. Now I want to get rid of this 2 from this side, so just like before, I'm going to multiply the other side by 2. So I get 214 equals 18 times 12, which is 216 sine T. And at this stage here, I would divide by 216. So 214 over 216 equals sine T. And to work out T, I need to do the inverse sine of this fraction. Okay, so 214 divided by 216. Now if I do that, the answer I end up with is 82.2 degrees. And as we can see, that is not an obtuse angle, that's actually acute. Now if you look at the sine curve, the sine curve looks like this. And 214 divided by 216 is a positive number. So let's just draw a line over here. And the sine of two angles actually give that value. Okay. Now what we've just found is this one over here. This is 82.2 degrees. That's this distance here, or this angle here. And that means this angle over here is also 82.2. Now because the sine curve crosses here at 180 degrees, the obtuse angle that gives us the same sine would be 180 take away 82.2. So what we need to do now is do 180 take away 82.2, and if I do that, I get 97.8 degrees. And that's the actual angle that I'm looking for. So this is T. So at this stage here, that isn't actually T, so that would actually be wrong at that point. This is the actual answer, and you've got to be careful when you're dealing with obtuse angles and when you've got sine involved. And one last example, and this is one where the triangle is drawn inside a circle. We're told that O is the center of the circle, and we have to work out the area of the triangle OAB. Now, what gets puzzling sometimes is the fact that people don't understand that this is actually an isosceles triangle. Okay, so this side here is actually the same as this side here. These are both radii of this circle. Okay, so the first thing I would do with a question like this is just label the sides that I know. Okay, so that's 6 centimeters and that's 6 centimeters, and from there it's actually really straightforward. So the area would equal AB sine C divided by 2. And A and B are both 6, so it'll be 6 times 6 multiplied by sine 120 divided by 2. And if I plug that into the calculator, I get 15.6 centimeters squared. Okay, and these kind of questions are actually quite popular when it comes to working out the area of a segment. Okay, so in another video I'll tell you how to work out the area of a sector. So the sector would be all of this area here, okay, and the segment would be that bit there. So what you would do is you'd work out the area of the sector and take away the area of this triangle to work out the area of this segment. Okay, but that's something for another video. Right, and that's it for now. I hope that's helped you to understand how to use the formula a half AB sine C. Thank you for watching and listening, and I hope you'll be back for another tutorial. Goodbye for now.